As a fierce wind howls across a barren desert littered with falling rocks, the ground suddenly rumbles with the thunder of an armored caravan charging through. Inside one of the vans, 6 people sit in silence, shaking not just from the vehicle's rumble but from something far darker. One guard inside reminds them they've been told not to leave their spot or do anything that might upset the prisoners. He'll just tell them now to be super careful. The van was silent, so Lala, a woman with a bright smile, introduced herself to her quiet neighbor and explained that she had come to teach science. Dante Kong stepped forward to introduce himself, mentioning that he's here for science as well. Lala and Dante shook hands, thrilled by the lucky chance of meeting, while Dante guessed that science was the class with the most students. Soon, the other teachers start chiming in one by one, with one claiming he's there to teach ethics and another insisting it's for music. The other 2 teachers handle math and art with sections that aren't very popular, and the music teacher is finally feeling like he can breathe after a long silence from them that seemed strange to him. The ethics teacher watched the group trembling in tense silence, unable to imagine they had ended up in Fogland, the world's biggest prison that people say is worse than hell. Lala laughed it off, saying he shouldn't scare them so much, and since it's an international prison, he figured nothing could possibly go wrong. The ethics teacher says the prison's international nature makes things look suspicious, but does she really know how Fogland came to be? 50 years ago, a huge space rock slammed into the middle of the desert. 5 years down the road, every powerful nation came together to build a prison right on top of it. When the music teacher perks up, it explains why the internet is filled with spooky urban legends claiming the room is an alien prison, a fact even the ethics teacher confirms. He crouches low so that his voice is loud enough for everyone to hear. Some scholars even said Fogland opened the gates to hell, so they might just be going to teach monsters. Dante lets out a choked laugh, wondering if teachers truly believe what they say. No matter where you are on this planet, everyone deserves the chance to learn, regardless of who they are or what they've been through. The ethics teacher asks himself if he truly isn't afraid, even though the rumors might be lies, because they are still walking into an international prison filled with the world's most dangerous criminals. Dante shakes his head, dismissing those feelings as the product of ignorance, since everyone else just gives him a knowing look. A guard's walkie-talkie buzzes with a report right in the middle of what they were doing. With just 5 minutes left before they drive into Fogland, everyone looks through the van's barred windows at its towering steel entrance, a massive wall of justice waiting to meet them. A banner, likely made by the prisoners themselves, hangs above the entrance. The guards warn the teachers that they can't take any photos or leave with their stuff until they hand it all over. Dante glanced around, realizing that thick fog made it impossible for him to snap even a single photo. The air is so thick with fog that nothing can be seen, but the guard explains that once they hand over their things, they will be led safely to their classrooms where everyone must follow orders. Dante believes he is only scaring them while the teachers get separated. Dante stays cool even though the air makes him a bit nervous, because there's no need to fear, this is just a place where people live. He is sent to a classroom all by himself, cut off completely from the rest of the class. He thinks it's too much, so he pounds on the thick glass in front of him and worries about how he'll ever be able to teach with it staring him in the face. Suddenly, a guard swings the door open and sees that the prisoners are right about to walk in. He must stay seated until the class bell rings, or they can't promise he'll be safe. Dante watches with a growing sense of dread as he realizes what is about to happen. The classroom door swings open and the guards shove the prisoners inside, but these aren't just ordinary men and women. They all look strangely creepy, like they belong to another world. Dante's heart drops as he scans the prison cells, wondering if they really have to be human. But even so, how can he teach someone who can't look up or someone who can't see at all? He suddenly remembers what the ethics teacher said, they might be teaching monsters. Dante shakes it off, realizing that's just nonsense, because he needs to get a hold of himself when real people live here. He fixes his position, grabs the microphone, and gets ready in his room. He steps forward, introduces himself, and decides the best way to start is with an icebreaker. Probably there were lots of fun classes like art and music, but science was the most popular one, at least that's how he saw it. Maybe they're just trying to build a rocket and fly away. The joke falls flat completely, leaving the whole team dry except for the hairy guy who actually finds it funny. Dante blushes so hard he thinks his heart will stop, but he doesn't mind since they'll skip the rockets and start with something way more fun. Today's lesson brings us nearer to nature. Right in front of every desk, they keep a sweet potato. This lesson is usually taught to elementary students. Most of the world's top criminals are gang members who grew up in crime, so this kind of experience would feel strange to them. At first, growing a sweet potato in a tiny cup of water might seem too easy, but with just a little care, you'll watch it sprout and learn just how precious life really is. He keeps talking, explaining that even though everyone in Fogland is considered a dangerous criminal, they have all come together today to learn something new. They are like sweet potatoes that keep growing no matter where they are planted. From now on, they're going to start trying to grow sweet potatoes. One of them suddenly lifts their head. The prisoner with a head that looks just like a sweet potato asks if he's being included in that group too. Dante didn't mean it that way and hadn't even looked at his face shape before he said it. He freezes mid-explanation when he hears and sees them all diving into the raw potatoes. Dante warns them not to eat the plants because they should watch them grow, but then he pauses and wonders what these people really are, thinking that since they didn't come here by choice, they must be here to learn. Suddenly, one of them grabs his attention and yells, "Stop wasting time on nonsense and tell us how to make fog right now." Dante is a bit surprised, but he quickly puts the pieces together. There is plenty of fog here, but people are wondering just how it forms. The prisoner gets so mad that he can't believe a scientist wouldn't even know what fog is. Dante thinks he's just a teacher making a joke, but then the tough glass in front of him cracks like a spiderweb as the prisoner smashes his head right against it. Dante let out a loud scream of shock, then told the guards that a prisoner was breaking the glass. That's when he recalls, wasn't this supposed to be reinforced glass? Before he could think more about it, the guards smashed through the door with rifles raised and shouted at Dante to drop, then opened fire on the prisoners, pumping them full of bullets while Dante hid behind the glass. He pounds on the door screaming for the shooting to stop, but a guard just tells him to wait there until everyone is dead. Dante gasped for air and begged them not to kill everyone, reminding them that no matter what they'd done, it wasn't right to just take their lives. He falls silent as the blind prisoner seizes a guard with one hand and shatters his skull right through the thick helmet. As guts spill through the air, the prisoners, acting like wild beasts, tear through the guards without a second thought for the lives they destroy. In the end, they didn't care at all. Dante starts gasping for air as his eyes squeeze shut, slipping away into darkness. Just before then, he spots a single prisoner who hasn't touched his potato and hasn't moved an inch. It turns out prisoner 182 saw him too. Suddenly, Dante starts to stir from his sleep. The very first thing he notices is a broken fan sitting next to someone crouching on the ground. As he opens his eyes and sits up, he sees that the prisoner stares back with piercing blue eyes. They stay just like that for a moment until Dante finally asks who he is. That's when he looks around and realizes he's stuck here with no way out. He asked where it was, and the prisoner replied, "It's my house." Dante feels lost at first, but as he looks at the man before him, his thoughts settle and he realizes this really is a prisoner, yet he can't help but wonder what happened before, remembering only the riot, the guards who came in shooting and brutally killing the inmates, and then the moment he simply passed out. Dante wonders if they're inside the prison, and the prisoner nods yes. He asks if this place is Fogland, and the prisoner nods. Dante starts to guess who brought him here. The prisoner nods once more and places the potato he received in class right in front of him. He wants his friend to show him how to grow sweet potatoes. Dante's reality shatters around him, turning what he thought was simple ignorance into something far beyond reason, making him shake with rage until his breath comes in short gasps as he screams. He dragged him all the way here just because of something silly like growing sweet potatoes. His mind spins in shock as he realizes this danger, proving the ethics teacher right that these things are not normal. They rip and tear until there's nothing left, and it's clear he's really going to die. He stares at the prisoner, wondering if that right hand is hiding something behind his back. His mind settles down and his brain takes over with pure instinct. He drives his shoulder hard into the prisoner, knocking him to the ground and then grips the prisoner's throat with both hands. He feels like he's finally caught this guy, who honestly isn't even in the same league as the others. If he keeps his head, he'll be able to manage the mess. Now all that's left for him to do is pull his weapon away. As he peers closer, he realizes his right hand is holding nothing at all. The moment has vanished, and he calms his temper before using his own tie to bind the prisoner to the bedside. He says sorry for the violence, but he got hurt because of his own foolishness. It's crazy to get kidnapped right inside the prison walls. He wants to grow sweet potatoes, but he apologizes and says he can't teach something that is just a mindless act. He tells himself to just eat it and wonders when the guards will arrive or when his mealtime will finally come. After all the chaos, he peered outside, convinced the prison must be on high alert with guards hunting for him, so he had to slip away before he was spotted. But to his frustration, the thick fog blocks his view completely. He screams for help while shoving the door, but it clicks open all by itself. Curious about the open prison door, he steps outside to realize just where he truly is. This spot feels just like a favela, and right below him stretch countless similar houses packed tightly around the edge of a huge crater. He tumbles to the ground, convinced there is absolutely no chance this place is a prison. He's panicking again, screaming for help, so 182 slaps a hand over his mouth and tells him to keep quiet because they can't leave without getting caught. Dante can't believe what he's hearing, living here in this terrible dump. He is just a stranger in this place, far removed from the rough crowd of city drags living there, until suddenly a fat prisoner looms over them, leaving Dante staring in shock. He looks at his scarred body and sees a face that holds no emotion. Dante starts to cry a little, realizing it wasn't meant for him, while 182 looks at the prisoner and asks what he's staring at. Before Dante could move, the fat prisoner knocked him down, leaving him half naked on the floor while the man repeated his warning to shut up. Dante tells him that it's his fault now, because even his clothes are gone. Why does he keep doing such foolish things that get them in trouble, like picking a fight with a monster while missing an arm, only for 182 to suddenly stand up and make Dante realize he spoke too soon. Slowly taking off his clothes just makes things worse. He quickly apologizes, convinced he's about to get married. Instead, 182 hands him the jumpsuit and says to get dressed. Dante stares in shock at what just happened, his eyes wide as he takes in 182's scarred and perfectly toned body. He slowly slipped into the jumpsuit, wishing he had been more careful. As he zips it up, Dante realizes that if he wears this, the rescue team won't recognize him. While 182 rummages through his things, he learns that no rescue squad is coming because the guards have all been killed. In Fogland, it's best to blend in with the other prisoners, because that's just how life works there. He slips on a grime-stained jumpsuit and suggests they head for food, sparking a thought in Dante that mealtime might be his chance to meet a guard. Inside the prisoner city, the fat man sings happily because the suit fits him perfectly, like it was made just for him. Those glasses he had looked so cool, so maybe he should grab them too. Just as that happens, someone calls out, "Honey," and asks where he found that outfit. The chubby prisoner hunched low and hurriedly said he'd found a nerdy guy with glasses who just moved into the tofu village. The boss gets it, so that's where he was. The fat prisoner agreed to try on the fancy clothes because he thought they were pretty cute. Suddenly, the boss drove his weapon right through the fatty's head, sending him crashing to the ground as he died. He leaves the blood on him without even trying to wipe it off. He just smiles, knowing at last he has found the teacher he was searching for. Dante glanced around and found himself standing in a dense forest of thick cement, where the people moved like camouflaged ghosts with eyes that looked like those of starving beasts. He walks with a piece of rebar in his hand, stepping right next to number 182 and wondering if these creatures are truly human or just beasts. Fogland felt like a prison at first, but it was really more of a wild jungle. He wonders if this really is a prison since it looks so strange and asks who built it. 182 just asks why Dante raises his voice, noting that people are walking around freely and some look drunk, plus he wants to know if the three figures over there are just decorations. The United Nations built Fogland, but somehow this place turned into a nightmare. Number 182 snaps at him to hush because his shouting is getting out of hand. Dante doubts himself, wondering why he expects kindness from this place if it really is Stockholm. The man beside him is a kidnapper, and those eyes look just like the others. He's just as dangerous, so you know he can't be trusted. They headed to the chow hall, where people were eating and everything seemed pretty normal. Dante grabs the tray, but he can't believe how normal everything seems. He peeks over the line and sees a real guard hidden among the prisoners. A smile breaks across his face as he can't believe what he's seeing. He tries to relax, even though he still looks like just another inmate. He must act as civilized as possible to prove he is not one of those monsters, and now that 182 has been denied extra ham, it is finally his turn. He asks the guard if he's really a guard, and the guard confirms that he is. Dante steps forward and realizes he is the teacher sent to teach the inmates. While the riot raged, the man in the mask standing right next to him, who could hear him perfectly, grabbed him and took him away. He must know about the riot, or he should call his bosses right away since they are hunting for him, but then Dante spots a stream of drool flowing from the man's mouth and looks into his empty eyes. Before he could even ask what was happening, the server slammed him on the head and kicked him out unless he wanted a fight. Dante stares in defeat as another prisoner empties his plain tray of food. He wondered if those eyes hid a secret and if the man really was just a guard. No, he was dressed in a guard uniform complete with a badge, but since he couldn't see any other officers around, he wondered if they were hunting him or what exactly was going on. Deep down, he knows everything is terribly wrong and he is completely in trouble. At this speed, he'll be trapped forever, just like that jerk right beside him. He calls 182 his student and points out that growing sweet potatoes was his last desperate hope. He promised to show him how to grow as many sweet potatoes as he liked, but he asked for help getting them out of there in return. He decided to lean on his own stupidity, but 182 isn't nearly as dumb as he believes, so he asks if he really thinks he's an idiot. Dante says, "That's not what I meant at all. I brought you here so you could learn to grow sweet potatoes, and once I teach you, you'll have no reason to stay and will leave, right?" For a moment, 182 stays silent before revealing that the only way to escape is for him to become the supreme leader. Dante wonders if that thing is a boss or just something else entirely. 182 whispers to him that someone like him could never pull this off, making Dante wonder if he's really saying only the top boss is allowed to reach out to the outside world. With a raised fork, 182 shouts the choice: you can rise up, or you can fall. That is the only way out, Dante says, confused, but 182 has no more questions to ask. Dante finally gets it and decides not to help anymore. He rises and realizes there's no reason to stay near him, so he immediately leaves this filthy, horrible place. He'll eventually regret this move because once he's free, the law will still catch up to him. He halts his escape and starts walking, knowing that a man like him is destined to rot right here forever. Suddenly, he hears someone calling out his name, asking for a teacher. Everyone turns around, and Dante is overwhelmed with hope that a rescue team has finally arrived. He starts screaming with tears in his eyes, shouting that he is right here. Kong Dante, a 32-year-old science teacher at a public school, stops screaming in fear when he sees the giant man towering over him lean down and smile. He says he really wanted to see him, knowing they've met before, so he went to his potato class. Dante steps back without even realizing it, nodding along. He would never forget that moment, because for the very first time, he saw someone that big. As the servers and other prisoners start shivering and breathing slowly, they realize they are one of the 6 massive shoulders that make up Cell 0, the tower. Right then, Dante remembered how that man had taken down the security guards. He held another prisoner up like a shield and shouted that they were being rude just because they had guns. In that very moment, he reached deep into his wide mouth and pulled out a blade, an act no one could have imagined. He started weaving through the guards, letting their screams form the music of his dance. Dante crumbles to his knees, defeated, and asks why they are even looking for him. Tower rustles through his pockets and says they have to keep the class going. Oh, he's lost all taste for sweet potatoes now. Now they can move on to the next big step and start making fog. As soon as the others spot the fog, they stare at it as if it were their only hope, and it certainly looks like a massive thing. Dante remembers that the man who nearly walked through the glass also asked him how to make fog. Is this the fog, a swirling blue blob? He asks what this thing is, leaving Tower confused since he truly has no idea. He squeezes his hand into a tight fist, knowing there is no escape, and wondering how a teacher who should know everything could possibly not know this. Dante says he's never seen anything like this in the real world. The Tower is getting annoyed because they trained for this kind of fog. 6 strong shoulders came together just to carry him home for his class. The Tower grabs him anyway, since it doesn't care if he's confused, and they'll learn from this now, won't they? When Dante sees the blue, pulsating thing getting right up in his face, he gets scared. The instant the ice starts melting on his teeth while the others drool with envy, he flips himself away because he has no desire to share any. As soon as the fog hits the ground, the crowd dives in to steal it, starting a wild fight right under Dante's confused gaze while Tower just laughs, knowing everyone is desperate for that mist. Here, it's as precious as gold and a gift from the gods. An old man munches on the fog, and even when the others shove him, he keeps his head high. Even as the monsters gnawed at him and tore his flesh apart, he kept smiling, while the towers could only stare in disbelief at these dirty tofu villagers going wild over a little fog, wondering if that old man would win a place in heaven or gain a superpower if there was more fog to be found. As Dante asks if he's interested, he suddenly feels the cold fog scraping his teeth, causing him to shake violently and throw up everything. He wonders why he ever stepped foot in this awful place, asking himself if he must be so foolish to be here. He sheepishly asks Tower to let him go home, then screams that he never wants to come back. He can't believe what he's seeing, because he's just a teacher, not a scientist. The Tower tells him to stop lying, so he remembers a drama he saw where a teacher was making and selling good medicine. Dante says the person is a chemistry professor, and they are totally different from each other. He's not even a doctor, he's just a plain high school teacher. The mess hall goes dead quiet the moment he speaks, with only Tower breaking the silence to ask if he's useless. He was the first to find the teacher and thought he had won the title of Supreme Leader, so he reached into his stomach to pull out the blade, but Dante froze while Tower rushed in to tell him that people like him were useless. As he hears this, memories of his father flood back, recalling how he once called him worthless for earning a teaching certificate. He refused to let him teach kids because the whole family was too proud to ever leave school without a PhD. He was shaming his family with 6 years of no degrees, and his mom agreed that he was running away instead of trying to finish another thesis. His brother begged him to quit, saying that being a teacher isn't a bad thing at all. They should let him at least try that, since he's already suffered enough after failing his doctorate for 6 years. He stood on stage respected by the crowd, yet at home, he was treated worse than an animal despite his famous father on TV, his doctor-lawyer mother, and his brother who joined a psychology society young. While eating dinner, Dante handed his father a paper about a United Nations prison called Fogland, where he planned to teach and earn great pay, and his brother couldn't wait to explore the place filled with crazy people he'd heard so much about. Dante explained they were just people, but his mother wondered why he'd go that far, since she's happy enough with the steady money the school brings in now. His father was just as puzzled, wondering why his son was acting this way. What crazy trick is he trying to pull off? Dante swallowed hard and admitted that sharing a chance to learn with those who rarely get one is what makes a teacher special. Just then, his brother spilled wine all over his shirt, and he felt a rush of excitement at how grand that moment sounded. He needs to realize that acting on that urge to get noticed isn't professional behavior. He didn't actually fail to get his doctorate, instead, he's pretending to have turned down the degree so he can play the part of someone on a noble mission. That's why he acts like he's just like them, trying to hide his lack of skill with odd behavior. Dante questioned why he mistook others' thoughts for his own, yet his brother pointed out that this foolish act born of insecurity was reckless and proved nothing but stupidity. Now he agrees with his brother. He was a fool because that was an incredibly dumb idea. Now he faces death, trapped among monsters in this disgusting, ugly place. It turns out the fool was always him, after all. But suddenly, 182 rips off his hood and flings a fork so hard it pierces Tower's arm and sticks deep into the wall behind him. Tower naturally throws his sword down and screams in pain as his arm gives way. He spins around, shouting for the person who had the nerve to bring a gun inside. Just then, 182 rushes in, yanks Tower's hair, and under all eyes, drives his knee into Tower's spine, shattering it completely. As the tower crashes down and leaves everyone silent, he stands tall, smashing the earth beneath him with his own body. Dante stared in total awe as the prisoners realized that a whole new shoulder had come into being that day. Everyone rushes toward Tower's dead body, the same one they were scared of just moments before, hoping to hear the name of his new shoulder. 182 just stares at Dante, realizing they need to grab him and get out of there before it's too late. After they finally stop, Dante can't believe he's still breathing, even though his body had already given up on life. He stares at 182 and feels absolutely certain that he is stronger than anyone. He wonders if the sweet potato was just a trick. Why did he really sign up for the class in the first place? Dante quickly says no to 182's request to make fog, keeps apologizing over and over, and leaves 182 feeling confused. He says he went there at first just because they promised him some new clothes. He spotted a line blocking the street, and a prisoner whispered that strangers had arrived. They promised to show them a thing or two. Because the competition was so tough, he offered to line up too. 182 hesitated at first, but when the prisoner promised new clothes, he quickly joined the line and waited patiently. Dante never thought that was why he saved him, so what really made him do it? 182 points out that he didn't save the man, only his fresh clothes, and then the man soiled those very clothes by peeing on them because he was never taught better. Dante didn't even know what was going on, so after grabbing some new clothes from a shady place, he started washing them to give them back. He wonders if that worn-out thing he's wearing is a sentimental keepsake, or why he'd keep it when he has new clothes. 182 stared at him in confusion and pointed to the number, insisting it was his, even though Dante knew the truth and just wondered why he hadn't thrown it away. 182 says the ticket has 182 printed on it, confirming it's his, and since the note also shows 182, he knows both belong to him. Even Dante starts to feel lost as the confusion spreads to him. He wonders if those dirty clothes are precious, too, but since he doesn't have the strength to wash them, he'll do it for him. After they washed everything and dried it off, they headed back to 182's house. Dante glances at his watch and realizes the hour has changed, proving that an entire day has vanished while he was trapped. Even if he can escape, the monsters called Shoulders are still hunting for him. They likely figured out where he is hiding because of the noise at the mess hall, so he'll have to sneak out before dawn, especially since his growling stomach reminds him he missed the chance to eat that awful soup. Suddenly, he spots the sweet potato being kept, decides to sneak a bite since he knows he can't grow it here anyway. Before he could even try, 182 smacks the object out of his hand and tells him to scram. Defeated, Dante admits he was just hungry and asks if he can have a little food. He refused the request and clutched the item tightly to his chest, insisting that it was his because he had carved his own number right into it. Dante finds the idea ridiculous and challenges him to grow it, wondering if he even knows how. 182 doesn't, but if he takes his sweet potato away, he'll get one back in return. Dante can't believe how stupid this guy is, since his vocabulary is like a kindergartner's and his actions are so primitive that only the few words he says keep him from looking like a caveman. But in a way, this actually works in his favor. He wondered if that sweet potato already had its own secret destiny waiting to unfold. Dante explains that he carved his number into the potato, which makes it sick, when 182 asks why that is. They call it browning, but seeing the worry in his eyes, Dante pushes forward and reminds him there is a way to bring it back. After their last deal fell through and made it tough to bring up the truth, he finally tells him one thing that he needs: sunlight. The fog in Fogland is so thick it swallows the sunlight, forcing him to head to a place where the air is clearer. 182 says the tofu village has very little fog, but Dante argues it isn't enough, pointing out that even clothes won't dry properly here. He has to reach the gate before the fortress, the only way into Fogland, at the very least. While a craftsman in pain struggles to build the strongest metal support for the tower, his men calm him down by claiming they've brought the best architect and a doctor, even as confusion fills him about the strange disaster that just occurred. His power has been gathering in the fog for a long time, making his spine as hard as steel and his neck strong enough to shatter with a single hit, but now he must ignore that useless teacher and chase the kid who is definitely causing trouble in the fog, just as a familiar voice points out that he has finally found the teacher. It's that same man from before, the one who attacked Dante. The others didn't even notice him standing there, but he found it funny that Tower ended up with a broken neck, so he just kept on ignoring them. The Tower wasn't happy to see him scurry into his hideout like a rat, yet the man believed they had struck a deal to share any teacher they found. Tower orders him to quit his foolish talk, reminding him that he's the one destined to lead, before snatching the hammer from the architect and declaring that his dreams are far too big for the talent he actually has. Tower tells him to wait, knowing that attacking a wounded man would be a cowardly thing to do. The man shuts out his cries because seeing a scumbag like him makes him want to crush him into pieces. He draws the hammer back toward Tower, aiming it squarely at the broad shoulder of Section 0, the Hound. After smashing everyone in the hideout into a pulp, Hound turns to his riders and says they must head to Tofu Village. With that, they all mount up and ride off through the foggy prison streets. As Dante and 182 walk, Dante stares at his heavy bag, wondering who owns it since 182 says it belongs to him and Dante never asked, and when 182 mentions people call him One Arm, Dante can't help but wonder if that's really his name. 182 insists everyone calls him that, but Dante finds it rude, so he keeps sticking with the name 182. He also wonders why this stranger keeps his face hidden, if he's a thief, and how he even got lost in Fogland. 182 says he's always been there, but Dante still can't make sense of it. 182 is exhausted by his own questions, especially since he's a teacher who should be answering them, and even after Dante reminds him he's just human, 182 can't stop talking or quieting his loud voice. With that, they walk in silence for a while until Dante takes a hard fall, realizes they need a break, and admits he's both starving and completely drained. He wonders how much farther they have to walk to the entrance, especially since they've been trekking for 2 hours yet keep seeing the same path over and over again. 182 tells him he doesn't know the way, and Dante gets angry. Why is he only mentioning that now, after 2 hours of walking for nothing? He sinks onto his back, too tired to keep going, so he must either carry the other man or find food to save the sweet potato. Suddenly, 182 faceplants, and Dante springs up to find him totally dried out from thirst. He tries to wake him up because he fears something dangerous happened, yet he's even more scared of being left alone in this place. He starts shaking violently, begging and screaming at him to wake up. Suddenly, a man falls straight down from the sky right behind him. As Dante spins around, he snatches his own pupils and forces them wide open to stare straight into his own eye. The man is surprised because he's just an ordinary guy, isn't he? He says sorry for his bad manners. He heard a loud noise and couldn't resist the urge to find out what was happening. Dante and 182 are led to what looks like an apartment building, where he is given food that he eats with hungry desperation. The roommate warns him not to eat so fast or his stomach will hurt, reminding him that there's plenty of food left to eat slowly. As they rescued him, Dante thanked them with a mix of gratitude and surprise, realizing he never thought he'd see ordinary folks in this place. The man tells the other that he is Rambutan and she is Lychee. Dante introduces himself and admits this is the first time he's talked normally with anyone in this place. He never thought he'd see a woman standing here. Lychee hugs Rambutan and wonders if she really looks like a woman. She chopped off her hair to pass as a man, because being a woman here means you can't help but stand out. Rambutan said they came from the inside, and the nearer you get to the center, the less the blocks matter. Dante wonders if many regular folks live in the center, while Rambutan doubts it since Tofu Village seems to be just a place where the outcasts get pushed aside. So, is he new, or has he not yet faced the fog? Dante steps up and insists he isn't a prisoner here. It's tough to explain the messy details right now, but that guy who collapsed? He's the one who grabbed him. Rambutan wonders if being taken to Fogland happened during the chaos of the teacher kidnapping. Dante sheepishly asks how anyone knew what happened, and Rambutan confirms that everyone found out because the enforcers took over the whole school so no one else could attend, leaving Dante to wonder what those foolish administrators were even doing. Rambutan was surprised to find the main culprit there, so Dante bluntly asked if he wasn't spying for the enforcers, which Rambutan denied while Lychee added that she'd never seen an enforcer acting that way before. Dante wasn't really an enforcer, but he kidnapped someone just to learn how to grow sweet potatoes. Hearing this, Rambutan bursts out laughing, and Dante just smiles along with them, not minding the joke at all. In his strange, dark comedy situation, their laughter acts as their only sympathy. Rambutan freezes when he sees him crying and asks if he's being held, but Dante shakes his head, saying he's just along for the ride as a bodyguard and likely collapsed from the heat. Lychee says they are in limbo, which is like slowly stepping out of the fog. He probably saw people all over the streets, wandering in a fog that kept them from getting to the place they needed to be. They pull themselves back eventually, but if limbo strikes again, their brains will start to turn to mush. Dante feels lost and wonders just what this fog is. Rambutan stared at his companion and realized with a start that he knew nothing about this strange place. Fog is a magical gift that gives you special talents. It makes you shine with a special gift you never knew you had, or finally gives you the talent you've always wished for. Dante wonders if that is even possible, but Rambutan tells him that it is not only possible, it even lets people go beyond their own human limits. With this power, they will finally break out of prison. Dante looked at the two of them, filled with both wonder and fear. Hound reaches the empty cell of 182, knowing they can't be far but realizing he must rush before Bone Eater, Nun Face, Fuzzy Back, and Drill Head hunt him down. Rambutan and Lychee invite Dante to join them, and he says yes at first, but then he changes his mind. Even though he likes the civilian offer, he knows the guards or the operating bureau need to be his top priority. If he gets mixed up with the prisoners and runs away, he'll be in big trouble, but only if they manage to get out. If they don't, he can finally stop worrying about it. The Rambutan speaks its mind without any filter. He will never see the operating bureau or anyone else here, since no one wants to try to enter Fogland. That's because he's hooked on the fog. If he takes the wrong step, he'll never be able to live without it, and that rule applies to him just as much as anyone else. Dante looks around the foggy scene, puzzled that it appears out of nowhere since he never called for it and has no intention of using it again. Rambutan says it's not about his wishes, asking how long he's really been here, just 2 or 3 days. Have you ever wondered why this thick fog has settled in? The fog swirling around him is made of those very particles he's been running from. The fog is a special gift from the gods that gives people talent. To show off that talent, you need a whole cloud of tiny fog particles. Though just the particles are enough to hook him, the fog slowly fills his lungs, making him crave more. If he can't get it, he'll end up lost in limbo. Dante worries he might already be hooked and in trouble, and Rambutan agrees there's a real chance that's exactly what's happening. Limbo marks the moment things truly begin, and since everyone's patience wears out at different speeds, he can't predict exactly when it will end, but there's simply no time to take a breath. Dante speaks the truth, even if they try to run away, they're already doomed because they're hooked. Lychee agrees that it's true, yet she's never met a single soul who walked out of this place alive. Maybe someday in the far future, nature will heal them, or if we ever find this prison, we might finally make a cure. They promise not to die right here, and Rambutan agreed, knowing that even if they get lost in limbo and forget one another, they will still meet under the same sky someday. Dante is irritated, but what he feels is genuine. These two are dead serious, and suddenly 182 wakes up to see everyone staring at him like he's a ghost. Dante ponders their next move, no longer wasting time on that sweet potato. What if he says he'll run away with those two? Will he strike them down just like that other guy? Number 182 grabs his sweet potato and checks if the coast is clear. Dante can't find an answer while Rambutan asks why a simple fog zombie is so scared. Once someone slips into limbo, they'll have no strength until the fog lifts, so he will win. Dante sighs in relief, glad to know they're safe after his worry that they might get hurt. Rambutan tells him not to worry and lifts his leg into the air. If he's such a problem, why haven't they killed him yet? They all glance at one another, but Dante stops them, saying there's no need to kill him yet. He drops to his level and sees that he is leaving. He isn't going to stay here, so it's time for them to part ways. Dante hears 182 asking for the sweet potato, so he quickly grabs it, adds a little water to a cup, and hands it over. If he plants it this way, the sweet potato will grow all by itself, and since it needs sunlight, he should take it outside to show it the sun. 182 points out that he is lost, but Dante doesn't mind at all. He tells Rambutan to kick this guy out because he's leaving with them, hoping to survive the arrest or gunfire just to get away from here. With that, 182 gets tossed out along with the cup and sweet potato. He stares at it for a long time, remembering a moment from his childhood when someone asked if he even knew what a puppy or a cat was. They are fluffy-furred animals like crows that are super cute. When someone lifts it up, it wakes up, understands what we say, and does what we tell it to. She smoothed down his hair and whispered that she wanted to try growing a ponytail of her own once they were outside. Holding on to that memory, 182 grabs the potato tight, refusing to let go again. Out there, a handful of prisoners are measuring something they've seen shift by 20 centimeters. They are watching a scary creature with 3 arms hold onto a leg, proving that someone foolishly tried to run away. Inside the apartment, Dante presses his hand against the wall and wonders how they're going to get out. Rambutan crouches down and promises to show him what he means. With a mysterious glow building in his legs, Dante's sharp eyes watch as he blasts through the ceiling at incredible speed. He stares in shock and asks, "What is this?" Lychee says Rambutan is amazing at jumping, so their plan is just to leap right over the wall. They climb to a higher spot, where Lychee taps a rhythm on her head until her eyes glow brilliantly. With that, she starts drawing a massive map of the prison right on the spot. Dante is stunned, realizing that this one girl can draw what she sees just once, like a perfect photograph, and he wonders if she is truly the last human in Fogland. She says this map, which she drew on her way from the center, is just a small piece of the big story that has been recorded. Dante's mind reels in confusion, wondering just how vast this hellhole truly is if this is only a tiny piece of it. Lychee points out that since Tofu Village isn't very large, they've likely traveled far and should soon reach its edge. Dante snatches the pencil and scribbles that the 4 beggars on this side did not draw the picture. Lychee snatches her pencil back and asks why she has to do that, but Dante only wanted her to mark the possible threats. He thinks this red one is the same, but he's not sure what it really is. The two share a knowing glance, and Rambutan decides it doesn't matter anymore since they're about to escape, so he asks Lychee for directions, then grabs both of them and dashes off. In a dark corner, a few people are suffering together without fog and without food, until someone suddenly asks if they have any fog, making them all look up to wonder who this idiot is. Chapter 182 asks them once more, and they begin to wonder if they even have any left. Suddenly, 182 tells them to dump their pockets, which makes one of the big guys slap him hard and yell, "What the hell are you talking about?" They were dying of hunger, so he dared to ask for one of them, and the skinnier one suggested they eat him. They say human flesh turns to fog, and those bone-eaters eat people just to get it. The others are too stunned to speak, even though their stomachs are growling, because doing something like this feels like too much when lunch is almost here. He points his spoon at number 182, wondering where to start digging in. Maybe they should drain his blood first and then drink it. As he thinks, Hound smacks the guy so hard he flies right into someone else, popping his eardrums with the force of the blow. They slowly figure out that the man before them is Hound, so they all start running away because they don't want to cross paths with someone so powerful. Hound crouched to 182, grinning widely as he realized he had finally found him. When the teachers tried to kidnap everyone and the other prisoners started fighting, Hound smashed through the glass to rescue Dante and pulled him to safety. He started to run away, believing he had won. Those fools were so busy they didn't even see him grab the teacher, and he was ready to take his own revenge on the tower jerk who used his crew member as a shield. He forgot their promise, but the coming punishment will be fast. But just then, he realized someone was actually following him. He spun around and asked which crew he belonged to. Looking at his face, he guessed he was either the one being eaten or the one drilling the hole. He then spotted the potato in his hand and wondered if he wanted to grow sweet ones too, so Hound asked what he was talking about and suggested they ask the teacher. Hound's temper flared instantly since his men had just suffered a terrible loss. As he tightened his fist, he suddenly lunged toward number 182, ready to knock the wind out of him with just one punch. But before the attack could land, 182 dodged and slammed 2 fingers into the potato he was holding, striking Hound right in the chest. The strike hit him right where it should, leaving Hound reeling on the ground while 182 grabbed the teacher. Hound clutches his head in pain and wonders if the teacher treated him right. Hound ripped off the mask he was wearing to show that 182 is still stuck in limbo, which looked pretty pathetic. He asks once more if the fog has returned, and Hound carries him back to their safe haven. They held a drink for D, the teacher's second-in-command who was killed during the kidnapping. Right beside him, his men snap each finger on 182's hand, yet he shows no reaction and says nothing. They ask if he wants to keep using his toes as a spoon, or if not, he needs to tell them where that teacher is hiding. He keeps repeating his last words, saying that if they give him some fog, he will speak. One of the torturers wonders how much longer he can pretend he doesn't care and asks his friend to break another, but since all 5 are already shattered, they have to move on to his toes. Slick, the new second-in-command of the Hound, wonders if that bastard has just gotten used to the pain by now. They'd do better to just give him one fog, since wasting time is pointless. Hound shakes his head and warns him never to feed that bastard any fog, while Slick just wonders what's so scary about him. There's no way a skinny kid like that could be scary. Hound wonders if he truly sees nothing but a skinny kid. He needs to look closely at how deep his muscles are, because his body has been pushed to the absolute limit with his fat likely sitting at under 5%. One of his trainees points out that he looks perfectly carved, which is impressive, but Slick insists that having some body fat is necessary to avoid taking big hits. Hound remarks that he likely feels no pain since he isn't reacting at all to the test they're giving him. Slick realizes the other shoulders are moving, and now that everyone knows the teacher is in Tofu Village, if that other shoulder catches her first, they're done for. He broke the alliance before D. even died, and no matter how much he thinks about it, killing Tower was a mistake. Hound shakes his head and says there was no mistake, warning that anyone who hurts their brother will only find blood waiting for them. Slick reminds him not to act like a worthless fool, because that's exactly what D. would want if he really thought about it, so they need to gather the fog instead of just sulking around here. Suddenly, Hound slams his fist down on the table, grabs his drink, and vows that they will never let D.'s death go to waste. He is sure they will all rise together without a single step left behind. He cheers for his fallen brother until the others do, but then he suddenly spits out his drink in terror and drops to the ground. Everyone rushes to check on him, but Hound tells them not to worry since he just got his airway clear. But that was a lie, because when he struck, he didn't just hit him, he aimed right for the ribs and stabbed. He's certain he took a nasty hit right to his liver. He flings the crushed can right at his own head and realizes that while he might trick everyone else, he can't fool himself. What he did back then wasn't luck, but skill, especially in Fogland where folks only respect power that comes from the mist and jump straight into fights. That was the fighting style they call Krav Maga, wasn't it? And the shoes he's wearing have steel in them. Was he maybe a soldier? Dante and his friends reach the gate, his eyes lighting up because he thinks this is finally the way out. Just then, Rambutan grabs him and says to hang on a beat because that thing is being watched from a tower. Dante wonders if someone really stands in that watchtower, but Rambutan shakes their head, saying they can't be sure. Dante thinks that if someone is there, he might be able to go in by himself, but Lychee worries about him being alone and suggests knocking on the door. Suddenly, a head pops up from the ground and warns them to stop right now, because the moment they reach the door, the shooting will begin. Lychee gets it, but then they all remember he wasn't supposed to be there at all. Dante leans in and asks if the sweet potato is actually alive. When the drill head snaps again at being called a sweet potato, Dante recalls that he was actually in that class when it happened. Rambutan steps right between them, knowing this person is someone he can lean on. Dante can't quite believe it, especially given the perfect shape of his head. Suddenly, people set up cones around them, while a drill head zoomed up from below to introduce himself as the supreme leader among the group. He rushes to get Dante's help, only for Rambutan to punch him right in the face just as the teacher arrives. Just before he falls, his men catch Drillhead and grab him by the face, and he asks them what they are. Rambutan tells him not to get involved because he was the one who found that person first. Drill can't believe it, he rolled in here like a mangy mutt who doesn't even know how to be afraid. Suddenly, he balances himself like a ballerina and starts spinning around, making the air swirl. Dante realizes he's doing ballet, but then Drillhead starts spinning in the dirt and rushes straight for them. Suddenly, he leaps out from behind Dante with no chance for him to react, but before he can strike, Rambutan smashes his foot down right as Drillhead runs away. As he drills more holes and yells at him for being too slow, Rambutan keeps charging while Dante hides in fear. Finally, Drillhead spots a crack and jams his sharp end right into Rambutan's back, launching him straight into a wall. When Lychee sees her lover in pain, she lets out a cry that makes everyone else jump right into action. The Drillhead reacts by pulling off her jumpsuit, showing that she really is a woman. As more grabbers come, Dante feels a deep fear and shame, knowing this is his own fault. But then, he feels angry too. He snatches a rock and hurls it right at the head of the man holding Lychee. Everyone is shocked, even Lychee, but he isn't done yet. He throws a storm of rocks that even hits Lychee, but she grabs his hand mid-swing to stop him from throwing more. As Dante wakes up, the two of them start running, and Drillhead notices the woman is pretty while also watching Rambutan to see how he reacts. Suddenly, they both sprint toward the two people fleeing ahead. But for Dante, it's over. Rambutan snatches Lychee up, the Drillhead clamps shut on him, and they both vanish underground, sealing his doom. Back at his hideout, Hound asks if you're a soldier or special forces, admitting he was once a tough guy who fought in real wars before coming to Fogland. He jumps up and orders Slick to keep the guy fighting until he can barely move. He is testing how long he can keep his mind clear without the fog returning. With that, he vanishes and Slick feels annoyed. One of them asks if he'll do it, but if he won't, maybe they should try it together. Slick snaps at him to shut up, pointing out that Hound isn't cut out to lead because he's just an irresponsible jerk. They mean that if the fog is thick enough, even Hound, who is destined to become the supreme leader, could get a chance to seize power. For instance, Inko is a skilled artist, and he even possesses the rare gift to lead the entire land. Even Bulk might not be the brightest bulb, but he still holds the spark of something special inside him. Bulk asks about him, and Slick reveals that his IQ is climbing every morning as he wakes up to realize just how stupid Hound has become. It's time to stop trying to prove yourself with brute force and start realizing that in our world today, true power comes from a sharp and thinking mind. Bulk wonders what he's going to do next. Slick figured he'd track down the teacher first and keep the spot a secret from Hound. The others will have to pick their own leader. He bends down to 182 and asks if he really wants this that much. He points to a drop of fog and says he will hand it over. Just as Dante crashes into the gutters, the Drillhead lands beside him, grinning with pure joy. He opens the doors to his hidden underground world to give him a warm welcome. Slick sucked the fog bead into his mouth and promised that in exchange, he would take the teacher under his command and spill all their secrets. He lets the bead roll across his tongue and decides he'd better think things through, since he won't get a second shot. But just as he swallows, 182 springs up in his throat and tears the fog apart the moment he tries to swallow it. The others barely notice what just happened until Slick slumps back, his throat completely gone. They rush to him to check if he's still breathing, but then they start hearing cracks as 182 carefully moves his fingers back into place. He gazes down at them, his eyes burning with the fierce, fiery light of a true demon. Down below, Dante guesses that Rambutan and Lychee have gotten away, and he's sure they have because they'd never wait for him if they had somewhere else to be, so he just accepts that he's the only one left to cook. Drillhead grins happily and asks if he can really make fog, just like the guys from Tofu Village said. The teacher suddenly made fog appear and then ate it right before snapping Tower's neck. Dante can't figure out where that rumor came from, and Drillhead asks if it's real, so even though Dante wants to lie, he remembers being useless last time and decides to just admit it. He quickly filled the air with a thick fog and swallowed it whole, turning the tower into a limp, lifeless puppet that hung down to his knees. Drillhead snaps at him, shouting that he has to stop lying. He wasn't as foolish as the other kid, refusing to believe the science teacher's silly trick about making fog. Dante, who doesn't believe in superstitions, insists that if no one can create fog, it shouldn't be there at all. Drill had told him that the fog wasn't made by people. One day, it just dropped right out of the sky. Dante recalls the tale of that meteorite smashing into the desert. Could that be what's making the fog and feeding these monsters? Drill had warns that with 50 years gone, rumors say the fog is fading fast, and Judgment Day is coming soon. Dante finally gets it, everything in the world is just a limited supply. As the drill head confirms it, the prisoners struggle through the fading mist only for the fog to swirl back around them. He tells his men to bring him a dead, naked man. Drill head says the person died from the fog and wonders if they can pull the fog out of their blood, which science says is possible. Dante is shocked and asks what he means, so Drillhead explains that the spinning 3-day device he mentioned is a centrifuge, which now holds deep traces of fog in the blood of those who consume too much of it. Dante asks if he just wants him to squeeze the life out of a dead body. If the fog is this thick, surely he should just open his nose and take a deep breath since the mist is everywhere. Drillhead clamps a hand around his throat, hissing that if this warning were enough, they wouldn't need the fog. He can't just pick up air like a stone, he has to scrape it together and squeeze it hard. Dante suddenly realizes the phenomenon is caused by the rising sun. Mist, he realizes, is just water vapor that has cooled down enough to turn into tiny droplets. Because it is really just water, we can catch it as mist if we heat and cool things just right. He tells Drillhead that with the right gear, they can shift this phase to pull out the water and fog Hound so desperately needs, but just then Hound returns to find his hideout in ruins and all his men dead, suggesting they should have eaten breakfast first. His eyes turn red instantly, and he lets out a scream of pure rage and pain. As 182 steps into the chow hall, his hand is swollen and angry from the shattered bones inside. He walks past everyone asking only for water, but the server and others tell him to wait in line because that is how it works here. Suddenly, with a broken hand, 182 crashes into the service station and asks for water again. He drinks the water and pulls the potato into the cup with it. He sits there, staring at it while waiting. Right then, Dante finally manages to soak up the fog from a scrap of cloth. He cheers loudly, convinced he's a genius. Now, no one can lay a hand on him. 182 keeps watching the potato, but it still won't grow. It looks like he got tricked, so the teacher will have to kill him now. Rambutan and Lychee ask around until they find a harmless-looking man, and they tell him there's a way out if he wants to escape with them. The man who looked harmless at first suddenly looks confused, then reaches for a sharp knife and tells everyone to leave. As they walk, Lychee realizes that in this place, everyone knows the truth, no matter how silly or innocent someone might seem. Rambutan thinks only Dante knows this secret, and she points out that Drillhead's secret hideout is marked on the map she made. This fog catcher is a clever machine that makes water from the air for people living in dry places. The rule is easy. When the air cools down to the dew point, the water vapor in it turns into liquid drops. As dawn breaks and the air grows cool, a special net catches the fog and turns it into fresh water. If you swap the net for a breathable insect screen and curve the bottom to guide dew into the collection area, the water you gather will likely be full of fog. Drillhead wonders what this fog water is, and Dante explains that it's just pure fog turned into liquid from Fogland. Drillhead dips his fingers in and tastes the water. The second he acts, his eyes go wide because he realizes he's in fog. As they realize they've got endless fog, they all start dancing and toss Dante high into the air while cheering him as their teacher. Afterward, they dress Dante in a patched-up suit and tie. Drillhead admits he's made for a suit, yet his new look is quite different, so he wonders if he actually likes this refit. Dante sees that his new outfit is made just like a sharp dress shirt, and Drillhead vows that no one will ever harm him again, because clothes this fine are not for just anyone. He opens the doors to his group and pledges to treat him with the utmost respect. Dante recalls his own words about standing closest to the supreme leader, and he remembers what 182 told him: to leave this place, he must become that leader. He figured that maybe this guy was the only way to reach the boss. Drillhead announces a grand fog festival today, so they can stop saving fog and instead use it all to help him ascend. Dante stands still, his eyes wide as he tries to figure out what that thing is. Drillhead's men dance and sing in the thick fog they've made until Drillhead says there's enough. Dante didn't expect to find himself standing in such a thick blanket of fog. Are they getting ready to throw a huge party, or what? Drillhead, the king of the underground, stands triumphant as his people's hard work finally comes to life. With the fog they've been saving for so long, he steps up to challenge Ascension today. His men cheer him on, eager to watch him rise and finish this. Drillhead turns to look at Dante and says, "Watch this closely. Watch the real moment a king is born." He starts to feast on the thick fog right in front of everyone. His men keep urging him to keep rising as he eats until only a few wisps of fog remain and his belly swells beyond control. Seeing nothing change, Drillhead sighs that today isn't the right day, but even after eating so much fog, his men keep trying because his talent is so fast it outpaces his body. Then suddenly, they all point in shock as his head grows huge. As the crowd cheers, believing he has finally risen to the stars, even Drillhead feels the power of the universe stirring within him. He stands right where the fog began, and now he can see every truth the world has ever held. As he swells in other places and claims they all live in a pale blue hell, suddenly he bursts open because his vessel can no longer hold the fog. The crowd cheers at the fall, and Dante hears the words "either you ascend or you fall" echoing in his head. He watches with a shocked face while everyone else cheers. Once he hit the ground, the fog started pouring down like rain. That was his way of saying the festival meant his people would feast on him. Dante can only watch helplessly as the others gorge themselves until they burst, proving beyond doubt that he belongs in a completely different world, the world of Fogland. One prisoner warns everyone to stop eating the fog stored in his uniform, because if they don't, they will all die from consuming too much at once. He takes Dante's hand and asks him to stop them, saying that he must now lead them. Dante is broken, screaming that he doesn't want to go as he runs away, but the others rush toward him to grab him and bring him back. As Dante keeps running, he starts to think this whole mess must be a dream because it just can't be real. From the very start, there is no way this could ever actually happen in real life. As he keeps telling himself to wake up over and over, he sees a familiar face staring right back at him, knowing exactly what he's been saying. He kept telling him the same thing over and over again. Dante spots his brother and begs him to pull strings and get him out of there and back home. But his brother can't help but wonder if he still doesn't get it. It really doesn't matter what he looks like. It's just a silly, cowardly mask, nothing more. Dante's mind breaks apart as he lets out a scream of pure pain. Dante has a condition that makes him unable to remember his brother's face. He sees the whole thing just as one big circle. Even when he said the meanest things, his brother's face kept changing. Sometimes he was angry, sometimes he was a crying woman, and sometimes he even looked like a demon. So he decided to see him just as a blank circle with no feelings, but suddenly he heard his brother calling out, and when he woke up, he found himself somewhere else wearing a prisoner's uniform and laid down very gently. He turns to look and finds Rambutan and Lychee standing there, asking if he is okay. Dante scratches his head, wondering if the whole thing was just a big dream. Lychee reveals they were the ones who brought him to the Drillhead's secret base, which was already marked on the map. They discovered him in the sewers, face down on the ground. Dante wondered if they truly came to save him, and Lychee confirmed it, so they agreed to escape together before Dante apologized for his delay and urged them to move fast, though Lychee noted they must rest soon since Rambutan had already walked quite far. She pulls back their tent flap to show him they found a spot right up against the wall, no guard towers in sight, so they're building a fire inside a barrel. She wonders if Drillhead is truly gone, and Dante nods to confirm he's dead. The whole room went absolutely wild in a chaotic mess, leaving everyone wondering just what on earth that had been. Rambutan explains that falling is actually death from an overdose of the fog, and he admits he ate too much of it too. Dante laughs it off and reminds him that while eating more fog boosts your power, everyone has a unique ceiling to how much they can handle. When they hit their limit, they'll burst open and spit out all the fog they've swallowed their whole life. No one knows where their limits end, and since he must be good at something too, the fog scatters when he can't find where his own line begins. As everyone waits for the next person to fall, Dante is reminded by what 182 said, there is no way up or down, only the one end, because falling here means death. He wonders if an ascendant means going past the limit. Rambutan says the goal isn't to go beyond the limit, but to show a special double talent in someone who has already reached their peak. Soon another talented person will follow him, worship him, and make him the supreme leader. Ascension happens so rarely that almost everyone just falls. Dante doubts everything is worth it for a moment, urging them to risk their very lives for a dream most might never reach. Rambutan says it's a legend about a day when someone will show up with talents that never end. They think he will break this world's rules, set everyone free, and become their god, which is why they call him the supreme leader. Far away, another ear tuned to his voice listens closely. He listens to every sound all around him. Pigeons flew past while a tough guy stood nearby and another man took a quick break. He hears every sound, including the tiny click of Dante pushing his glasses up his nose. 182 opened his eyes just as he finally found him. Deep in the sewers, masked heroes with full gear start scooping up the fog coming from Drill Head. A woman hiding her face in a bag watches the world glow around her, noting that someone falls every single day. She spots the broken pieces of Drill Head and realizes the fog inside him is so intense it has no focus. He tried to climb up too, but it was just pitiful, so she decided she'd take the fog if he couldn't use it anymore. Just as she grabs the trash, a voice shouts that she's just a tourist and hands her a bag of clean mist instead. She is happy with the excellent quality, while the red-haired man asks if they have found the guy yet. She asks if they mean the one-armed man, but honestly, who really knows what happened? The red-haired man is frustrated that a whole year has gone by and that's all they could manage. She sighs, thinking this order from Fogland's Operations Bureau is hardly worth her time. The man tells her to stop talking nonsense, but she isn't happy about it, especially since prices have gone up so much this year and she wonders if he can afford to pay a little more. The red-haired man agreed, promising to give her anything she could ever want if she brought that one-armed man to them. As the sun rises in the tent, Dante shivers in his new clothes, wishing he'd kept his old uniform since it was so much warmer and he's freezing his butt off now. Close by, the two lovebirds are flirting and hiding their secret moves by draping their uniforms over themselves. Dante sneezes suddenly, proving he wasn't asleep after all. Rambutan worries if Dante is freezing, but Dante says he's okay, though it's just one of the worst mornings he's ever had. They reach a towering wall that seems impossible to climb, but Dante notices something odd right away. Those stains look like fresh blood, yet he saw nothing that night, and for no clear reason, he's feeling quite nervous. Dante asks if he can help, and Rambutan says yes. All he has to do is hold the bag, but there's one other important thing to remember. Do you think he follows a faith? Dante is lost for words, but Rambutan interrupts him and asks him to read a prayer instead. Dante stands baffled, wondering how a prayer could work when he doesn't even believe in God. He tells him it doesn't matter, and in such desperate times, everyone just prays for a way out, which Dante accepts when he hears the simple words, Our Father, letting Rambutan know they are finally ready to leave. With that settled, they both hopped onto Rambutan, who pumped his legs up to their fullest power. He tells Dante to start praying, and he does. And Rambutan starts his countdown, smashing his legs into the ground over and over to build up pressure. Dante keeps praying, hoping for a miracle, but then a giant hand slams down, stopping Rambutan just as he lifts off the ground and throws everyone back into the dirt. Everyone jumps back as they tumble down. Rambutan takes the worst of it, and as Lychee yells for him to calm down, Dante watches 182 charge at them with wild rage. Dante shouts, How did he get here? While 182 rages, knowing the truth he lied about will now cost him his life. He keeps swinging his huge, swollen arm while Dante runs away and asks why. Before 182 could reach him, Rambutan snatched him up and started running away with both of them. Lychee is confused about why Rambutan attacked him and wishes he could just knock him out and jump the wall, but no matter how fast Rambutan runs, the mysterious fighter with the number 182 keeps up effortlessly, making Lychee wonder if this guy just has a natural talent for running. 182 steps right up to Dante and warns him to stop running, or he'll snap one of his legs in half. Dante asks why he's holding on if he isn't the one running, before 182 trips Rambutan, sending them tumbling and sliding across the filthy floor. As Dante wakes up, 182 towers over him and insists he means business. Dante tells him to calm down, asking what lies he possibly told him since he just taught him how to grow sweet potatoes. 182 did exactly what he promised, giving the plant water and sun, yet it still wouldn't grow. Dante stares at his watch, surprised it's still working, and wonders how a whole day could slip by so quickly. Dante grabs his head to stop him from wasting time, insisting that everything needs time to grow, a fact that should be obvious to everyone. He has to wait at least a week to find out if it will even grow. 182 just accepts it and asks where he is heading. Dante brushes the dust off his clothes, knowing he's already given his answer, and realizes the man he just spoke to is walking away because he's no longer needed. 182 looks around and wonders if it's because of those two people. Dante asks what they are saying and tells him not to touch it, no matter what happens. He had already shared everything he needed to know and was getting ready to head back home. 182 peers into his eyes and asks if he truly means to die. He told them he wanted to go, and since he's ready to die, they're letting him go. Rambutan yelled at him right away to stop talking. He thinks they've just finished chatting, so why doesn't he go away and stop hanging around? He asks Dante to join them and leave the guy behind, but Dante can't shake the feeling that something is wrong. He wonders what 182 means, but Rambutan pulls him away, calling it nonsense from a mind that's already melting, so they must leave right now while they still can. Suddenly, Lychee yells at him to grab him and start running. Dante tells him to wait since he hasn't heard back yet, but Rambutan shouts that he needs to pray quicker or maybe he doesn't want to get out anymore. Dante tries so hard, but he's fighting against a titan. Rambutan blasts upward with his power, but Dante can't shake that uneasy feeling. He holds on to every moment they shared and every time they came to his rescue. He liked them, so they headed home together, but suddenly Rambutan stepped between them and placed his foot on Dante's chest as an apology for what was about to happen. Suddenly, he hurls Dante aside, sending him crashing to the ground just inches from the bloody fence. Rambutan handed him a bag overflowing with refined fog, a detail the Guardian noted was about 30 centimeters tall. It looks like someone is trying to escape once more, but then the Guardian vanishes from sight. Unfortunately, Dante became the Guardian's target and was left alone to escape after being betrayed, just as he once stood before the Guardian with Lychee to warn Rambutan not to touch the dangerous thing. It stands there looking just like a stone gargoyle, frozen in a statue-like pose. As long as nobody steps over the wall, it stays still, which means it's truly alive, isn't it? He didn't think this would stop their escape, even though Lychee had heard stories saying it was a mysterious creature born from the fog, while others claimed it was actually a government safety trap built to keep the fog inside. It's like a tool that traps every bit of fog, keeping the mist on our skin and in our lungs from ever leaving this place. They're holding on to the fog and stopping it from vanishing because they don't want it to go away. Rambutan wondered if this meant it could think, and Lychee believed it could, for it could already feel the fog and instantly spot anyone plotting to escape. As long as that gargoyle guards them, they can never escape, and the more they crave freedom, the more her dreams of sun and sky grow, while the despair inside her only deepens. It's an endless loop, and she has had enough. Rambutan held her hand tight and promised there had to be another way for them, not like this. He'd already promised to get her out, so she should just trust him. He would do anything for her, no matter how tough the task. Rambutan climbs the wall to peek behind and sees that the gargoyle has completely swallowed Dante, along with all the fog. His face showed pure relief that it worked, the fog in his bag gone and his silly prayers finally answered. The gargoyle believes Dante has already vanished into the fog, so now is the perfect moment to slip away. He tumbles to the other side, landing hard on the sun-warmed golden sand right outside the prison walls. He stares in wonder at the sunlight after so many years, knowing they have finally made it and are truly free. He calls to Lychee, but when he turns around, he sees that her head has vanished completely. All that remains is a stump where her head used to be. He glances over at the crunching sound nearby and spots another guardian standing on one leg, chewing on what looks like Lychee's head. He can only watch as the gargoyle keeps crumbling itself until the beast finally snaps it in its jaws. With the rage of a man who lost his lover, he lunges to kick the gargoyle, but before he can strike, the creature inhales and spits a cloud of fire that swallows Rambutan, leaving him frozen and helpless. The gargoyle that swallowed Dante hops over the wall. Dante gets called an idiot by 182 people because he promised he'd never leave this place. He stares at his broken arm before charging the guardian, punching its jaw so hard it begins to crack, which only confuses the gargoyle. He then unleashes a sharp missed attack, but 182 dodges it at the last second and calls him a real nuisance. He keeps punching the gargoyle's teeth and jaw over and over, screaming for it to break, until it finally shatters and reveals that Dante is still alive. He cries like a baby, begging 182 to save him because he knows he was wrong and just wants to live. Number 182 grabs the broken hand and drags him clear of the gargoyle's snapping jaws, crashing down hard onto the ground with him. Dante quickly grabs his hand, confused because he expected to be dying or killing him, and can't make sense of why everyone is acting so strangely. 182 just tells him to open his eyes and say he doesn't want to go anywhere anymore. As Dante does, he spots the gargoyle above them, fear rushes back in, and he asks what it is. It's a terrifying monster, and they'd better run for their lives right now. Number 182 presses his head to the ground and realizes he must tell the gargoyle he'll never leave again. He had warned him many times that there was no way out, and he wasn't lying this time. He needs to speak his words quickly, or he won't survive the night. Dante clenched his teeth, gave up his fight, and swore to the gargoyle he would never leave again. 182 stares into the gargoyle's eyes, sees no harm or lies in them, and then vanishes, leaving Dante to stand up and wonder what that creature was and if it was just an illusion. He also wonders about Rambutan and Lychee, that pair of friends, asking where they are and if they finally managed to get away. 182 tells him that they passed away. What he saw wasn't just a trick. Anyone who tries to leave this place will die, no matter how strong they are or how much they care, because no one can ever beat the Hollow One. Inside the prison, the girl who once wore a bag over her head is now questioning the cannibal known as Bone Eater. That name sounds terrifying, making you wonder if he truly eats people or if it's just a scary story to keep thieves away from his fog. Bone Eater points out that if she truly wants to know the answer, they can give it a try. He wonders what she tastes like, so she tells him to stop and says she didn't agree to it, but he knows she's soft just by touching her and thinks she looks delicious while also being brave enough to come here on a mission to find a specific man after showing him a photo. His prison number is 182, he stands 182 centimeters tall, has 2 moles on the right side of his face, and is missing his right arm. The Bone Eater snaps up the photo with his tongue, smacks it against his face, and declares the guy inside looks absolutely delicious, wondering if he can just go ahead and eat him. The woman sighs, knowing that if he wants him that badly, there's nothing left for her to do but let it happen. Bone Eater chuckles because she knows him so well, and as the woman ponders her own identity, she realizes she might just be one of them after all. The Bone Eater thinks she has a real gift for talking, because he has never met anyone quite like her. The girl realizes that calling him out isn't silly, since he's just a local boy from around here, while she's a top student in a tough region where only the strong survive. Once the gargoyle returns to its spot, the men who just measured its movement are stunned to find it shattered and broken, leaving them wondering how that could possibly happen. The bald man wonders if the golem is hurt, but he knows that can't really happen. Suddenly, Baba Yaga sees this as a bad sign and starts to laugh. Everyone stares in shock, stunned that it's been 5 years without a single word from him. Baba Yaga points out that a crack in their chains is a huge sign that they might finally be free. Right away, they realize this is a rare prophecy that happens only once every 5 years, so they must write it down or memorize it before it's too late. He sees the bird take flight, knowing that their long-awaited day of freedom is just around the corner. Dante asks 182 about those things, noting he called him a Hollow One and wondering if it also killed Lychee and Rambutan. Dante stares in shock, refusing to believe that other people besides him have been hunted by this same deadly ghost that kills anyone trying to escape Fogland, while his friends Lychee and Rambutan stay silent about it. Dante can't believe they lied to him, and he's even more confused about why monsters might be waiting outside while the whole world remains unaware of them. 182 snaps him out of his games, reminding him that he's already seen the deadly trap waiting on the other side of that wall with his own eyes, so trying to cross it means certain death with no way out. He told him before, but Dante dropped to his knees in disbelief, calling it a lie and saying it couldn't be true. There's no way he could just stand there and let 182 sock him in the face, especially after he'd already told him to shut up. Even though food is brought to them, Dante won't touch a single bite. He's fixated on the Hollow One, a monster that might be a prison security system trapping him with hallucinations or some strange machine. No matter what it is, it has to be a powerful system that can trap these inmates, who are far from ordinary. He thinks back on what happened to him, realizing that in the end, he was just bait. He clutches his arm hard because it was almost too late, knowing they were foolishly standing right on the edge of life and death with no time to worry about strangers. Since he was so fixated on breaking free, his mind went blank and everything felt wrong. Why did he bother saving him, and what secret is he keeping? This time, the danger wasn't hiding in a sweet potato, the clothes, or even the fog. Even back then, he took good care of him. Is this guy truly just a good person? Even though he spoke harshly and treated him like a beast, why does he still act kind? But Dante notices Dante balancing a fork on his broken arm and asks why, causing the other one to quickly hide it behind his back and claim he is fine. Dante isn't buying it for a second. He steps closer and asks what's going on, only to see the swelling get worse and grow even bigger, forcing them to rush to the hospital because he can't let it get any worse. 182 tells him to get out of his hair, and he's fine with it since it's just a broken bone. Dante knows the truth, but this swelling isn't normal, and when he grabs the swollen part, the man in question winces in pain, proving he's just toughing it out. Thinking hard, Dante quickly rips a scrap of cloth off to make a bandage and presses it against the wound. 182 gets upset and wants him to remove it, but Dante insists it's just a temporary fix and moving it would only make it hurt worse. 182 urges him to remove it so he can eat, but Dante insists he can't even then, leaving 182 wondering just how serious this really is. If he doesn't get help soon, his arm might never work again, making it silly to think he could survive on just his legs. Right now, they're nothing but two clumsy fools barely touching. If they cross paths with a thug outside, they'll likely be dead before they even know it. The number 182 is telling them to head to the hospital. Dante wonders if a real hospital is actually here, and since the sign confirms there are doctors and staff on the inside, he immediately starts asking where the nearest doctor is, but the sign just makes him doubt if that doctor even exists. 182 says he once fought a doctor in the Zone O. Dante realized the place was even larger than it seemed, especially after seeing the two drawings on a map that already looked too huge for a normal prison. That's when his eyes lock onto the map, realizing he still has the bag they've been carrying around. He starts digging through the pile and, just as expected, he finds the map safe and sound hidden among the wet, foggy remains. They had finally found the Holy Grail, their long-awaited salvation. As he starts putting it in place, he thinks about how his mother, a devout Catholic, always said everything happened for a reason, and even though he doesn't believe in God the way she did, he agrees with that idea. If you can get back up after falling, every stumble just becomes a small chapter in your epic success story. He finds the hospital marked on the map, along with a treasure trove of secrets about the whole place that looks like a giant pizza cut into just 4 zones. He wonders if a hidden headquarters controls everything from the center, but the map is torn right there. But then, feeling its ridges, he realizes it wasn't cut at all, it was folded to hide a secret compartment underneath. As he pulls it out, he realizes the command center is pulling toward Fog HQ. There's truly a center right in the middle. There is a main command center. He screams at 182 that he has a plan while they head to the center, but 182 is already a true master at work as he folds the fog into a perfect vent. Somewhere else, at a famous place where secrets are sold, he counts his fog up like a drug dealer, noting that lately, he's been making quite a lot of money. If he gets lucky, he'll spot that one-armed guy fast, but the atmosphere feels totally electric now because everyone's buzzing about this info broker named Kasim. A note announces that visitors and customers are coming, so Kasim tells them to let them in, but the Guardian is still in the dark about this. Before he can speak again, Bone Eater pushes through the doorway and looms over Kasim like a judge ready to deliver a final blow. He was totally stunned because this guy is for real. His monstrous body is the only thing stopping his endless hunger from taking over, making him the most dangerous thug in Zone O. Kasim barely sees him and only knows him from passing glances, so when Kasim asks how he can help, Bone Eater hands over a picture of 182, which Kasim instantly recognizes as the same man the Bloodhound was hunting. Bone Eater looks at the man's face and guesses, "You must have seen me before, right?" Kasim beams, realizing this lucky double request means double pay for the same work. He says he's already checked him out, which means there's a contest, so how much cash is he ready to hand over? Bone Eater wonders if his life has value or if he feels like he's worth nothing at all. Kasim laughs.